Ready for a deep dive today?
Always.
All
What
right.
chilling depths are we plumbing this time?
Well, get ready to trade sunshine and fresh air for something a little more, shall we say, otherworldly.
Let me guess, we're finally tackling Lovecraft. I knew it.
Not quite. Though the cosmic dread is certainly in the air. We're venturing into the dusty, echoing ruins of an ancient Martian city with Clark Ashton Smith's The Vaults of Yoh Vombis.
Ooh, Smith. Excellent choice. His brand of weird fiction always gets under my skin in the best way. What makes a story so special?
Well, it's not your typical Martian adventure. It's less about little green men and more about the creeping dread of the unknown, the kind that lingers long after you finish the story.
Ah, the slow burn of existential dread on the red planet. Smith definitely knew how to craft a chilling tale. So where do we start?
Right from the beginning, Smith sets up this atmosphere of unease. We meet our narrator, an archaeologist, but not on some grand expedition, no. He's in a hospital bed.
Recovering from a nasty encounter with a Martian land squid.
Let's just say he's lucky to be alive after his visit to Yoh Vombis. But here's the thing. Even safe in the hospital, he feels this pullback to those ruins. It's like he's already under their spell.
That's a brilliant hook, and it tells us right away that this story is about more than just physical danger. There are psychological forces at work here, something insidious that lingers even after the physical threat is gone.
Exactly. And speaking of insidious, Smith's descriptions of the Martian desert, they're incredibly vivid. You can practically feel that oppressive weight settling on your chest as you read, that sense of ancientness, of death, of something deeply unsettling.
It's the language itself, isn't it? Smith was a master of using prose to create a specific atmosphere. He doesn't just tell you the Martian desert is desolate. He makes you feel it in your bones. It's subtle, but incredibly effective.
Absolutely. And that feeling only intensifies as the explorers descend into the vaults themselves. Talk about claustrophobia. Every step deeper feels heavier, like the darkness is closing in.
It's almost like that physical journey deeper underground mirrors their descent into something they can't quite grasp yet, and that's where the true horror lies, isn't it? In the not knowing, the slow unraveling of reason in the face of the unknown.
Masterfully done. You're holding your breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then they find it. A single shackled mummy in the last vault. An inhabitant of Yoh Vombis chained for millennia.
It makes you wonder, what did they fear? What were they trying to contain? Because whatever it was, it clearly wasn't content to stay chained. Which brings us to the black cowl, right? One minute it's an ancient artifact, the next, bam! It springs to life, attacking Octave with this terrifying ferocity.
Talk about a sudden shift from eerie exploration to pure, visceral horror.
And it's such a brilliant move by Smith. Up until that point, the story has been unsettling, atmospheric. But with the cowl attacking Octave, the stakes are immediately raised. They've stumbled onto something ancient, powerful, and very much alive.
It's a terrifying wake-up call. And it's only the beginning because then, well, we have to talk about the leeches. Just the name sends shivers down my spine.
Oh, Smith at his best or worst, depending on how you look at it. His descriptions are truly the stuff of nightmares. He doesn't just tell you they're horrible, he makes you feel it. The way they move, their appearance, it's all designed to evoke this visceral sense of revulsion.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And it's not just their appearance, is it? There's something about the leeches that goes beyond the physical. They tap into this primal fear of something ancient, parasitic, something that defies categorization and control.
Exactly. And don't forget those little details Smith plants earlier in the story. The strange moving shadow the narrator sees outside the ruins. The dark patch on the ceiling of one of the vaults.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Suddenly, those seemingly insignificant details take on a whole new meaning, don't they? It's like something is awakening within the ruins themselves, something that's been waiting for millennia.
Makes you wonder what else is lurking beneath the surface in places we think we know, right? The places we think are safe.
Or even more unsettling, what about what lurks beneath the surface of ourselves? Because Smith's brand of horror, it often blurs those lines, doesn't it? The external and the internal.
Speaking of unsettling, the narrator's escape from those vaults is pure chaos. He's running blind, desperate to get away, and Smith puts you right there with him. You can practically feel the panic, the confusion, the sheer terror of it all.
Of course, the real horror, the truly tragic part, is what happens to his companions. Seeing them succumb to whatever's down there, their humanity stripped away.
It's one thing to face your own mortality, but to witness that happening to your friends, your colleagues,
It would be enough to shatter anyone's sanity, which brings us to the question of the narrator's own state of mind. Is his madness a result of some supernatural contagion within those vaults? Or is it simply the trauma of what he's experienced?
Or maybe, and this is where it gets really interesting, it's a combination of both.
Right. The vaults, the leeches, they act as a catalyst, pushing him over the edge into a realm where the lines between reality and madness become blurred.
And here's the kicker. Even after escaping the physical horror of the vaults, he still feels this pullback to Yoh Vombis. It's like a siren song he can't ignore, even though he knows it could be his doom. Why would anyone go back to that?
That's the power of Smith's writing. He doesn't offer any easy answers, any sense of closure. He leaves you with this unsettling feeling that some things are simply beyond our comprehension, and yet we're drawn to them all the same, like staring into an abyss and feeling the abyss staring back, beckoning you closer.
You want to run away, but you also can't help but be mesmerized by the sheer vastness, the mystery of it all.
That's the seductive nature of horror, isn't it? The way it both terrifies and fascinates us, forcing us to confront the unknown, the unknowable. But we've talked a lot about the cosmic horror aspects of the Vaults of Yoh Vombis. I think it's worth taking a moment to appreciate Smith's incredible command of language.
Oh, absolutely. The man was a master wordsmith. His descriptions are so evocative, so meticulously crafted. He doesn't just tell you about the Martian landscape, he makes you experience it.
You can practically feel the dust on your skin, smell that stagnant air, hear the echoes of something ancient and malevolent. He paints a nightmare, but with words instead of a brush.
And he doesn't shy away from the grotesque or the macabre either. In fact, he embraces it, using vivid imagery to create this sense of palpable dread and disgust. Think about his description of the leeches, for example. He could have simply said they were hideous creatures.
Right, but instead he goes into excruciating detail, making your skin crawl with every syllable.
And it's not just the visual descriptions either. He uses sound, touch, even smell to create a truly immersive experience. You can practically hear the slithering of those creatures in the darkness, feel the cold touch of that black cowl. It's masterful.
It really is. He doesn't just tell a story. He creates an entire sensory experience, pulling you into his world and making you feel like you're right there with the narrator.
Experiencing the terror firsthand.
It's that visceral quality that makes the Vaults of Yoh Vombis such an effective and enduring piece of weird fiction. It gets under your skin and stays there, whispering its secrets in the dark corners of your mind.
Speaking of secrets, there's one detail in the story I found particularly intriguing. The portrayal of the Yoh Vombis themselves.
Oh, you mean the original inhabitants. What about them stood out to you?
Well, we know they were a technologically advanced civilization capable of building these vast subterranean cities. But we also get these subtle hints that they were a deeply superstitious people, driven by fears we can only begin to guess at.
Yes. Don't forget that unsettling detail about them being depicted with a third arm in their art. What was that all about? What does it say about their evolution, their culture, their fears?
It's like Smith is suggesting that their pursuit of knowledge, their advancements in technology, ultimately led them to something that terrified them, something they couldn't control.
Which, of course, begs the question, what did they find? What lurks in the deepest, darkest recesses of those vaults?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? That the very things that make us human, our curiosity, our thirst for knowledge, could be our undoing. Something to think about, don't you think? Especially today.
No doubt about it. We're living in a time of unprecedented technological advancement, pushing the boundaries of what's possible faster than ever before. But are we considering the consequences? The Vaults of Yoh Vombis, it serves as a stark reminder that some doors are best left closed.
And some secrets are best left buried. But even more than that, I think this story really highlights the fragility of the human psyche. I mean, our narrator, he's a scientist, a man of logic and reason, and yet he's completely shattered by his experience in those vaults.
It reminds us that sometimes the greatest horrors aren't the ones we can see and touch. It's the ones that worm their way into our minds, the ones that chip away at our sanity. The narrator's descent into madness, it's a chilling testament to that.
And the true horror, the really tragic part, is that he never escapes it, does he? Even in the supposed safety of the hospital, he still feels that pull back to Yoh Vombis, to the very place that broke him.
That's the insidious power of Smith's writing. He leaves you with this lingering unease, this sense that something is deeply cosmically wrong, and the narrator's final realization that the leeches are just the tip of the iceberg. Truly terrifying.
It's like looking into an abyss and realizing the abyss is staring back, and it knows your name, and yet there's a strange allure to it, isn't there? that pull towards the unknown even when it terrifies us. Maybe especially when it terrifies us.
That's the paradox at the heart of so much of Smith's work, isn't it? The Vaults of Yoh Vombis, it isn't just a horror story. It's a meditation on the limits of knowledge, the seductive nature of the abyss, and the monsters we carry within ourselves.
It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it. It makes you ask questions about the universe and our place in it, questions that linger in the quiet corners of the mind.
And that, I think, is the mark of truly great cosmic horror. It doesn't offer any easy answers or comforting resolutions. It just leaves you with a profound sense of wonder, terror, and the unsettling realization that some things are best left undisturbed.
So if you find yourself drawn to the allure of the unknown, if you dare to peer into the shadows of the universe, just remember the lesson of the Vaults of Yoh Vombis. Sometimes the most terrifying discoveries are the ones we make about ourselves.